All right, so it's been a while since I've done one of these because I haven't been watching anything because there's nothing out that's relevant or good or decent even. So I was kind of excited for this. Obviously, everything in pop culture has become kind of garbage. So when I finally heard that people were in love with this, well, not in love. I don't want to say people were in love, but this movie got a lot of praise. People were saying that the movie was a return to form for Marvel and all that stuff. And I guess people were saying that because what Marvel has been releasing for the past, I don't know, 4 years, 4 or 5 years, has just been complete garbage. That I guess, if you take a shit and piss on it and present it, that would be better than what Marvel's been putting out. So I guess that's why people have been praising it. So I was kind of excited for this. I was finally able to get it for free. Again, that's why this is so late. My reviews tend to be late because I don't pay to see crap in movies anymore. And fired it up, started watching it, and I gotta say I didn't like it. I didn't like this. I want to say I hated it, but I'm not. I don't know. I'll see how I go as I talk about it. But I didn't like the movie. I didn't like it at all. It started off, and the movie. It's Guardians. It has this little quirkiness and its humor and its comedy. It's always had that, but it seemed like it was ramped up too much in this movie, and they've been doing that a lot. The first Guardians came out and kind of changed the game. Unfortunately, the first Guardians to me was a great movie. But unfortunately, it was so successful that some cum guzzler in Hollywood or in Marvel and Disney or wherever, whoever controls it, looked at that movie and said, we should make all of our movies like this now. So you started to see it in every fucking movie. The Thor movies completely changed and they became versions of this. You even had movies like this in DC. It's just like the same garbage. And now, because I've just seen it so much in every, I mean, it doesn't matter the character's story, the character's villains. It doesn't matter any of that. It's just always this comical comedic garbage all the time, over and over again. So watching it in this was just too much. The first thing that they did was take out Rocket. They took Rocket Raccoon out, and one of the things I have issues with, the writers have been recently writing a lot of garbage. They just write trash, and that's not recently. That's been for a while. Just writing complete garbage. Most writers in Hollywood are dick sucking losers, and they write garbage. So you see a lot of garbage. But another thing is the decisions that they make. So even if you're writing garbage, I mean, there's certain decisions you're like, well, why would you choose to make that decision? So you have these characters who have this great chemistry and rapport with each other, and one of the most outspoken ones in the group, you remove him for more than half the movie out of the group. I think I would say almost the entire movie, Rocket was removed from the group. And Rocket was a big part of that chemistry. He was he, I would probably say Rocket was the biggest part of the character chemistry in the first movie. To me, even though he wasn't the star, Peter Quill's character was. Rocket Raccoon was to me the most important one in the group. It was something about that's why he got a lot of his own scenes in part two, because he was that influential as a character. They realized that, and so they gave him. They focused on him a lot in the second one, and then that's why they made the decision in this one. The story kind of revolved around him, but you remove that character. Now you gotta fill the gap with something else or somebody else, and so they decided to fill it by, and they started this in part two by make first of all they made Drax into a complete fucking moron. And they have this trend of turning these characters from characters that are aloof or who are odd or weird or quirky or different. And so that's what makes them comical and weird, because they're this quirky, odd person. And then they just turn them into imbeciles. They did that with Thor. Thor initially kind of stood out because he was different and he didn't know about Earth and customs, and he was a sort of royalty. So he was kind of a fish out of water. He just didn't fit in with the group as much. You know, he was this that, and that was made him kind of unique and quirky and different, and it was nice having him around. Then they turned him into a complete dumbass, and they did that with Drax. So they turned Drax into like a retard. Drax was like retarded. And then they had the Mantis girl the Mantis girl, she was a nice addition. But having her, I don't know. They like pushed her into the role what Rocket was in. Maybe was because they wanted more female empowerment or more females in the movie or something like. I don't know, but they removed Rocket, put in this Mantis girl who is not a bad character, but after a while it just became like, oh god, it's if you're not making a comedy, then there's times where you got to rein it in and dial it back. And in movies like this, it's too much comedy all the time, over and over again. It makes it so that you don't have there aren't certain stakes in the movie that kind of put you at the edge of your seat, because it's kind of everything's fucking comedic. So if something bad happens, it's probably going to get reversed, or it's going to turn into a joke, or they're going to make fun of it, and it's not going to be that important. So you don't really take anything seriously, and you don't want to do that in these big fantasy science fiction movies. You want there to be some stakes. You want people to be on the edge of their seat. And other than a scene at the very end, which again was kind of turned into a bit of a joke, Peter Quill almost died. Other than that, everything else was kind of like, well, nothing bad's going to happen. So I'm just sitting here like a fucking clown, just drooling and consuming irrelevant content. Most movies, even the great movies, are kind of irrelevant content. Not really that important in the scope of things. But the great movies, they tend to get your mind working a bit more, because there's certain things you're focusing on, certain things you're looking out for, certain emotions that it turns. And this movie was emotional. They tried to do some emotional stuff in there. But it was kind of like that blatant, hey, we just want to pull your heartstrings. It wasn't something that your brain had to kind of like break down and work on, like a great movie, where you don't know what will happen exactly. You don't know who will survive. You don't know who will turn. You don't know what's going on. And so when something hits you, your body and brain has to react to kind of deal with that. And it's kind of an exercise watching good or great movies. These movies now are just like, I just supposed to just sit here, grab my dick in my hand, and like Al Bundy, and just sit there and look at it and drool and consume it until it ends. That's how these movies feel. It's like one big fucking joke. Everything's a fucking joke. Everything is a fucking joke. Then you have things that don't make sense that are happening. Writers aren't paying attention to the characters' established abilities. So Drax apparently has super strength, but in one scene they're stuck and they're stuck on this ship that is going out into space, and it's getting cold, and they're losing oxygen, and they can't get through this door. And yes, eventually Drax knocks the door down. It's Drax, but he's having a hard time, and it's kind of like, oh no, what are they gonna do? And then, like a few scenes later, they're at another door, or towards the end of the movie, they're at another door, and Drax reasonably just pulls it open. He pries the door open with his bare hands, which is what he should have did in the other scene. Drax is like punching people in the head, or I don't even remember if it was Drax. Somebody punched somebody in the head, and that blow would normally break their skull, but it didn't. People are being shot with or hurt with certain things that shouldn't hurt them. So for instance, Peter Quill might get hit with something and it really hurts him, and then they hit Drax with the same thing and it really hurts him. And I'm like, well, if based on these established characters and who they are and their abilities and their physiology, if it hurt Drax that much, it would kill Quill. but it doesn't do that. There's scenes where Gamora doesn't exhibit her super strength, but then she does. It's just it's like this weirdness that's going on, and it's because they're not really. It's to the point where people like Peter Gunn, they don't really have to work to make a great product anymore. It's kind of like, well, I just am, and they're gonna give me a check, and I make something that's competent, and because I make something competent and funny, or I'm not, I don't even want to just say funny because I'll give him a little bit more credit than that. Competent, funny, and entertaining. Because a lot of these movies, I guess, are entertaining. This one, it didn't really. I guess if I saw this in the theaters and was around other people, maybe it would have entertained me more, but it didn't. But for the most part, Peter Gunn or Gunn, or whatever, James Gunn, makes entertaining things. And so I guess he's like, look, they're going to give me a check. I'm fucking making movies for two different studios now. I'm making movies for Marvel, making movies for DC. I'm just at the top of the game. So they don't really, it's like they don't put in the work anymore. They just produce some garbage and throw it out there. And that leads me to my next point. I think this film was like written by an AI or something. Because there were just so many different fucking things thrown into the fucking movie. I mean, this shit was going all over the place. You had like child trafficking, and then you had the scene of Drax being like a father, which was like cute for the children. But in another scene, people are saying fuck, and I'm like, is this for kids? Or who is this for? People getting shot in the chest, dying, animals being tortured. So it's not for kids, but is it for kids? Or are they trying to make it for everybody? You have animal cruelty going on. You have the evil corporation that has to be put in check. The mad scientist, family. It's just so many different goddamn themes in the fucking movie. It was as if they just plugged stuff in and said, we want to hit as many people as possible and make this for a huge audience. And so you had all this like just fucking shit in there. By the end, when the little kids and this got this like happy music, I'm like, what the fuck am I watching here? You can make something family driven without just blatantly saying, look, babies cry and feel good on the inside parts. I had that feeling at the end like they were just trying to hammer it home. Like, why were there children slaves in there? There were no adult slaves. This guy does experiments on animals and children only. Where were the adults? If there were no adults there, because I guess they were trying to pull at the heartstrings even more. I mean, shit, you already did that with the animals. Fuck you. How am I trying to pull my heart out? So this movie just felt like they were trying to just reach everybody, but it felt weird because they were trying to reach everybody at different points in the movie. So for most of the movie, I wouldn't let a little kid watch this, but then by the end, it turned into like a little kid movie. Just like in Thor: Love and Thunder. By the end, you got all these little kids. It's like, is this movie for kids? Because like a 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago, you just showed Chris Hemsworth butt cheeks. So is this for children or, it's like watching these movies now. It's like I'm not watching a competent story, and that's why I'm these actors and writers that are on strike. Fuck them. Don't give them the money. Fuck them. You need to change the whole system. Something needs to be changed. That whole putting people into a union where they get into the union and they just got fucking a job for life, or not for life, but it doesn't matter what kind of shit they make. They just got access to a job. That's got to be taken away. People got to be hired and paid based on the products that they put out, because you just have so many fucking writers that just make garbage. These people just sit at home and write something in an afternoon and just hand it in. Nobody checks it or does any quality checks or nothing. They just turn it into a fucking television show or movie, and you get these fucking weird ass fucking stories. Another thing about this movie, the way that they neutered Adam Warlock. I mean, this guy fights toe to toe with Thanos, and then in this, it's like wasted opportunity and wasted potential. And I say that in a lot of my reviews. It's just like a waste. You have access to something that could be great, and it's a waste. Again, it's comedy. You bring him in and it's comedic. He's just like a dumbass. He's a oafish, dumb fucking fool. If not for Peter Quill, every male in the movie would have been a fucking imbecile and a incompetent simp, doofus fool to the strong, powerful women. You're either a villain or you're an incompetent fuckhole, or you're just a stupid doofus. At one point, they got Drax and the girls calling him. One girl is insulting him. The other girl who was trying to defend him is calling him stupid to his face. It's like, but and you can't blame this on woman empowerment or nothing like that because a man wrote this story. So what the fuck's going on here? Am I, as a male, am I not supposed to watch movies? Or is that what the message you're trying to put out? You're telling me don't go see the movies? They're not for me anymore? So you got Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock should have been a badass villain. They should have used him as a secondary villain because you don't want to focus on High Evolutionary too much because if you do, you see what happens. You just get this stupid guy walking around speaking in a British accent, not really doing anything, not really relevant, not really threatening. So you should have had him as a secondary villain. You could have had Adam Warlock start off as a villain. He would have been a strong villain. He could have been competent. And then you turn him into a good guy. And then all these guys go together to fight this High Evolutionary and all his corporate masses and all that stuff. That would have been a better than making him into this secondary background dumbass character. Who is, which I guess they did exactly what I just said, except he was a comedic fool and a loser and an imbecile. But you could have just made it more serious, and then you keep the comedy to certain characters, like you did in the first movie. The first movie you had more than enough comedy, but it wasn't just like overwhelmingly dumb to the point where it's like, oh, this story is not really relevant. There are no stakes. Everything's a joke. It's just like a big joke. It's like just watching a fucking cartoon. Which is why these movies initially were so great. It's because I'm seeing these cartoonish characters, but you're bringing them into the real world, into like real life. So it's live action, they're actual stakes, and you pay attention to things like physics. So certain things kind of have certain stakes, they have meaning, and it makes it more real. Then they turn these live action movies into live action cartoons like a Saturday morning episode. It's like this week on Guardians, Rocket gets kidnapped, Rocket gets hurt, and they have to save Rocket Raccoon. What'll happen next week? It just felt like another episode. It didn't feel like an end of a trilogy. So I didn't. It was a lot that I didn't like. I don't like the way that they just turn characters into superheroes because they think it looks cool. So Mantis was in the second movie. She was this interesting character who had who had the abilities of an empath. She could control people via their emotions and things like that. That was cool. Again, she grew up. She was another one of those fish out of water characters. She grew up on this planet by herself, so she didn't really have access to other people. So she was kind of aloof. In this movie, they turned her into like this. And she was kind of sweet and kind hearted. And she's like screaming all over the place, screaming at everyone. They turned her into like a martial arts master. Where did she learn martial arts? Ego taught her martial arts. Why would he know martial arts? And why would he need martial arts? And why would he teach her martial arts? She didn't know martial arts. So when did she learn martial arts? Who taught her martial arts? Couldn't have been Gamora because she died. Who else knows martial arts there in the team? Nobody. So how did she become this martial artist? So that character change was kind of stupid to me and out of nowhere. Didn't really like that. What else didn't I like? I don't know why they never turned Groot back to who Groot was. The way he looked now, I don't know. I guess that's not relevant or important. But I didn't like, so I wanted to bring that up. All in all, the movie was too long. It got to a point where after a while I'm like, oh god, what's happening now? High Evolutionary again is not that threatening of a villain. So, and I know this isn't going to be important to people, but it's important to me because I'm black. Then they make him into a black person. I don't know. So I think he was like the only black guy in the movie, and he's just like this. And that's not. I'm not saying you have to have black people in every movie, but it's like now they're making the villains into black people. I don't know. That's probably not important to other people either, but it's my review, so fuck it. I'm gonna put it in there. I didn't like that they made this incompetent who got beat up by a baby raccoon into a black person. They made this villain who was practically incompetent. They made him into a black person. This villain was like one of the most incompetent villains. He was just like a corporate CEO who just walked around sounding like he was supposed to be in a Shakespeare play, not really doing much. Again, he gets beat up by a baby raccoon. He winds up destroying his whole company just for one raccoon. What kind of genius would say, "I need this one raccoon"? Try to make another one. He can never replicate that. Why? They never explained why Rocket was so unique. That this particular experiment that he does on every other animal. I mean, this guy's doing experiments on animals and people throughout the galaxy, all these different aliens, and only Rocket had this, what was it, like a special gene that made his brain unique? That was never explained. Why was Rocket so unique that they didn't test his? Why did they not test his brain all that time? They just left him in a cage for all those years. They saw that this anomaly, this great thing in this one animal's brain, they didn't just kill it and just take the brain out and test it. So that was kind of stupid to me. That it made the High Evolutionary into an incompetent. Things that I liked about the movie. I liked that they took chances with humor. There was good humor. There was some good humor in there. There were times when, despite the fact that I was trying to make myself not laugh, that I did laugh. And there were a lot of those instances. You still had the chemistry between the characters. A lot of the comedy kind of flowed well, which that's good. It didn't always fall on its face. It was too much of it though, but it didn't fall on its face. It kind of flowed, and you still had that chemistry there, even though Rocket was removed. I liked how they handled the Gamora situation. What I love is how at the end it wasn't just a happy ending where Gamora falls back in love with Peter Quill. I kind of liked where it just, I'm not the person you fell in love with. I don't know you, so I'm gonna go my separate way, and it didn't work out. That's kind of how it would have worked in real life if this stuff could be possible in real life. So I really appreciated that. There were things about the movie that were good. That's why I'm not saying I hate it. The effects were pretty good. Action sequences were not good. I didn't really care for the action sequences. There's none that I can really remember or that stood out to me. What else did I like? The actors did a good. All of the actors did a good job. Always gonna like how Batista portrays Drax, even though he was an oafish dumbass in this. So there were things that I liked about the movie. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. And it's unfortunate because these movies, they have so much potential to make such great things. They can make money and make great things at the same time, but it's just the writers are too late. They're too complacent and too comfortable now. And so I'm glad that there's a strike. Hopefully that shakes some things up because these writers are they're just like, I don't need to write anything good. I have this contract. I'm in a union. So as long as I do the job, I may not do a great job, but that's relative, you know. You say it's not great, but that's just relative. I think it's great, and other people might think it's great. So you can't really punish them because of their shitty work because, again, whether their product that they're responsible for creating, whether it's good or not, is relevant. It's relative. I mean, not relevant. It's relative. You know, it can not be good to you, but it can be good to others. So you can't really you can't even really punish these people. So they just keep getting work and keep making shit and garbage like this, where you have a lot of nonsensical things going on that don't make sense or shouldn't be happening. Just things that just annoy me. Is Peter Quill, is he still part God? Because I thought once the planet was destroyed, he lost the ability access to that. Because if he's not, then he's engaging in certain actions that would kill most normal people. So that stuff doesn't make sense. What else didn't I like? I think I was really in kind of really kind of angered by the fact that Warlock was just treated like garbage. I was waiting when they showed at the end that Adam Warlock was coming out. I was like, well, he's not gonna make it probably for the Infinity War versus Thanos, which that's where he belongs. But at least you'll have Adam Warlock, and we'll see. Adam Warlock is a bit of a badass. Let's see what happens. And you got that kid from the fucking Narnia movies in it. So, as Adam Warlock. So I don't know. I just wanted to make this because I haven't made these in a while. And I just saw the movie yesterday. And I wanted to like it, but I didn't like it. They should have had Rocket in most of the movie. Should have been in most of the movie. You needed him in the movie. And they replaced him with Mantis, which was a very bad replacement because she's too comical. And there's this like tone that these movies do now. I can't even explain it, to be honest with you. I'm just old. I'm an old person, and these, like I said in a few of my other reviews, I'm old, and this stuff isn't being made for me anymore. It just belongs to a new generation, so I shouldn't be complaining. I should just let this generation have this garbage and let them have it. I'm sure the shit that was coming out when I was young, the generation before was probably complaining about that. So, I guess what I'm saying is not important. Whether this stuff is good or not is relative, like I said earlier. So, would I recommend this movie? I don't know. I don't know. The Guardians series was a pretty good series. Again, the first movie, in my opinion, was great. So I don't know. I don't know. So the reason I'm saying that is maybe you may want to complete the series if you saw the trilogy if you saw part 1 and 2. But I don't know. I don't like giving, and it's not important. Nobody really is taking me seriously or taking my suggestions seriously. But I don't like telling anybody that they should go and see garbage just because some rich person made it. And when I say that, it's kind of like I'm rich, and in order to be richer, this is just a job that I have to make this garbage so that you can consume it and make me richer. So I don't want to help somebody get richer just because they did it to get rich. I don't know. If you want to become richer, make a good product. I'll give you my money. Say, here you go, this product was great, here's my fucking cash. You earned it, you deserve it, hope you enjoy having even more money. Thank you, sir, for giving me something that I wanted and that I like. But if you're just making, just pumping out garbage because it's going to make you richer, well, I don't want to help make you richer at all. I don't want to give you money, and I don't want to suggest to anybody that they give you money. So, I guess not. Don't go see this movie. I'm going to go and watch the Mario Brothers now. I think that just came out today, and I can get it somewhere legally.